one of the things when we looked for garage organization, all the shelves are really expensive. They're anywhere from $200 to $400 or $500 for a large shelf that isn't even as big as these. So I have built shelves for my parents, and that's what I'm doing here. As you can see, the shelf's pretty tall, pretty big. It's 8 feet tall. So I'm going to go through the steps on just how to build a simple shelf in your garage. So that way, if you need to put stuff up, it doesn't cost as much. Right now, the price of wood has come down. So for one of these shelves, it's 2 pieces of OSB and then 2x2s and 2x4s put together with wood screws. So we're going to go through step by step, show you how I'm going to build this second one, and hopefully it'll help.
Slowly crept into the sky. It filled the morning air with warmth and life. Sounds of birds in harmony, and you there right next to me. Oh, no matter where we go, oh, my heart is yours to hold.
So this is quite a mess. It's super embarrassing. When we moved in, this was kind of just the drop zone for everything. And then it was winter time, and it's just a mess in here. It needs to be cleaned up, and that's what we're working on.
All right, so we have this huge garage, huge space to put stuff, but as you guys can see, this is very cluttered and things are just spread out all over the place. Unfortunately, we don't have anywhere to put it. We were looking at shelf systems, but they want $300, $250, $300 for a shelving system. So we went out, spent $200 on wood because it's still fairly expensive, but the prices are coming down. And I'm setting up a shelving system that I've done at my parents' house. It's similar to the one my dad set up for my mom. And so right now I'm building the frame of this, which is attaching to the 2x6s for our garage. The shelves, each one we're going to have 2. They're going to be roughly about 8 feet high, 8 feet wide, and about 2 feet of depth. So I'm just putting it together, kind of go through the steps a little bit as I put it together. So if you want to put one together, you can. And get the garage cleaned up because it's a mess and I have no space to do activities. All right, so I have one edge built over here. We're going to build another one right there. So that's one end of the shelf. So what I need to do right now is cut more of these 2x2s. 2x4s are uncut. And I'm going to show you a little trick here on how to cut a lot of pieces of wood at the same length consistently. So let's go over to my miter saw and take a quick look. Alright, so here I have the miter saw. Don't judge me on how dirty it is because I've been using it. But one of the tricks with a miter saw to get a consistent cut the exact same size when we're working on a project like this, where you're going to have to cut anywhere from 8 to 16 parts, is to have a stopper, which is what this is right here. And if it went longer than that, I could put a table up and put a clamp down and a piece of wood. But the goal here is that I can just slide a piece of wood in and it stops up against there. Okay, and this is all measured out. Make sure to measure up to the blade with the power off. Never with the laser guides. I've found laser guides are not always accurate, so I let it measure up to the blade when it's down. I'll lock it in and measure between those 2 points. And so that way every piece of wood I cut off is going to be the exact same length. And I just zip, 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 zip instead of measuring over and over. So let's get cutting and put up the other end of our shelf. Okay, so the first thing on building the shelf is that I'm using these 2x6s that hold up the siding on our garage as an anchor point to the garage, so that way they don't move. This doesn't move at all, So we're going to lay the OSB down on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a 2x2 coming off there, 2x2 coming off there. But first what I needed to do, we have these large containers right here that are right at 2 feet. And I had to raise this up just a little bit so that way they could go under. This shelf just barely wouldn't fit. But outside of that, it's about 2 feet from here to here, and it's pretty much perfect for these yellow totes that you can get over at Costco. And actually, if you wanted to, you might be able to add, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. You could probably add a 5th shelf in here if you just got everything really flush. But I like having the variety because we have all sorts of different totes. So the first thing first is to get those 2x2s. Now that I have these anchored to the wall, get the 2x2s coming out about 21 inches is what I measured for these. And we'll start cutting over there at the miter saw. So went through to build its basic setup, but it's really cost efficient, really sturdy. I could sleep on these, and I'm a big guy. So just to go through what I've done so far. Again, we have the bracing. Let's see here, I'll pull this off so you can kind of take a look here. So the first thing I did was I made the edges like 21 inches. When you add this 2x2 and the 2x6 in the back, it all equals out to almost exactly 24 inches, and that's 2 feet. I get two 4x8 OSB boards, so it matches really, really well, as you can see. So I get the 2 arms on either side built. I attach it to this 2x2 over here, get everything kind of squared away, and then I put the shelves in. Now if I wait to put the shelves in until I get everything done, 2x4 in here and braced, it's not all gonna fit. So I have to put the shelves in next. I don't have to drill them down, but as you can see, this is not strong enough to hold any sort of weight. So we're gonna put a 2x4 right here. I'm gonna put another 2x4 right here, so that way it's not just resting on the edge here. Now there are a couple of things I just wanna go over if you're gonna do something like this. One, we have the screws right here. Now these screws are not going into the edge of the material. What I mean by that is if I, right here, if I drill into this side right here, the screw isn't going to catch on to this as well as it would be with the cross grains. So we're going to drill those in at an angle, and so that way it does catch those cross grains and is going to be a lot more sturdy. Now one last thing about this is currently wood prices are still pretty high. They're not through the roof like they were. OSB is right around $24. It used to be upwards of $80. But what I am finding is 2x2 material is still really expensive, and it's absolute junk. So if you're going to do something like this and you need 2x2s, get 2x4s. And if you have a table saw, just rip cut it through, meaning you center it on that 2x4, push it through, and it'll give you 2x2s. So make sure you're careful when you're doing any of that cutting. Wouldn't recommend it with a circular saw unless you absolutely knew what you were doing with it and everything was really clamped down. But best to use the table saw. You can rent those if you need to. So what we're gonna do is put the 2x4s in here, get everything bolted down, make sure it's sturdy, and then we're gonna start putting some stuff up there. All right, so the final thing I did was to drive screws into the panels for the shelving, and one of the things to remember is when you do that, it actually makes it rigid and strong because it uses the strength of the panel on top, so it's not going to wiggle back and forth if you tack it down to the frame. So it makes it all stable. I could climb up this if I wanted to. I'm not going to. However, we're done with the shelf, so now we're going to get everything loaded up.
several weeks later, this is what we've accomplished, right? Because kids and life. But we've got the shelves here now, and a lot of this stuff that was here on the floor is now up out of our way, which is so awesome.
Yeah, it's not perfect. There's still stuff we need to go through. Probably about a quarter of those boxes can be condensed. And by
That's
a
a
quarter,
job for another day, though. That's like an organization thing. This was just getting it up off the floor onto these awesome shelves. So, and a little bit of like cleaning. Like I said, everything was just kind of dumped here when we moved in, and we just have not had a chance to get out here and get it organized. So this was the first step. There will be much more happening in this shop.
making
and
me
we
happy.
still have a lot of organization to do as far as like the other side of the shop over here.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Let's just celebrate this job being done. And look, we have so much space for activities. We can walk around.
You can get the ATV and the lawnmower in, and it's not going to take up the foot space of the garage.
Okay, let's go to bed.
Tired?
Yeah, I don't even know what time it is, but it's way past my bedtime.
All right. Home instead.